mostly to do with religious type topics. But now, because I'm pretty much unhappy with so-called apologetics, you know, people just want to quote stuff from the Bible and try and preach a message at the same time, mostly to do with Christianity. I myself have taken a pretty widespread view. So I'm going to put something forward to you now concerning evidence for God, for the existence of God. I believe, of course you have atheists saying there's no evidence and you're just giving an opinion. But, with what they say, they just say, oh, there's no God, blah, 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 blah. So let me put one evidence forward, one case for God, and we'll take it from there. So we'll start off with evidence number 1. Air and gases. Now, with panentheism, or entheism, or even if you want panentheism, the basis of that belief is that everything is contained within God. The shape, measurements, and indeed substance of God are not defined, and nor could they ever be by anyone but God. But without a doubt, the substance of God can interact with animate beings, and indeed inanimate objects, regardless of their structure or species. What we know as air, the varying products, and indeed the components of that are, and within it, do aid and assist all living creatures to stay alive. As water and ice are vehicles and sustainers of living beings, so too is air. As it is what formal state it is in due to temperature for the most part that differentiates differentiates between the three. So so air, oxygen, gases, and so on, we need them and we need God. Okay. What we commonly know as breathable air, that which we breathe, or indeed just air, is composed of 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, with the remaining 1% being largely argon. Argon shares its 1% with the likes of carbon dioxide, water vapour, helium, neon, hydrogen, ozone, krypton, nitrous oxide, and indeed methane. However, these components are extraordinarily small. They are this small percentage when you know that argon makes up 93% of the remaining 1%. So we have these three dominating components. They are forming the air we breathe every day, as well as the water and ice, steam. And you might be thinking, oh well, it's just air. But without that air, you would simply die. If you leave the Earth's atmosphere, you would certainly die. But the breathable and required air and other gases may alter the ratio of components within that immediate section of atmosphere, depending on the distance of that section of the atmosphere that it resides in is from Earth. It is fair to say that apart from God, there is nothing that can sustain itself wholly of its own accord, whether it be animate or inanimate. Okay, I'll give you an example. What we commonly call the atmosphere is composed of four zones. These are the troposphere, the stratosphere, the mesosphere, and the thermosphere. While in the troposphere, we can easily breathe. If we venture above that, we need our breathing to be assisted. As we can see with aircraft travel, indeed, mountaineers will attest that the air becomes thinner and higher one climbs on a mountain. Also, take into consideration that the temperature drops significantly, and yet the air does not totally solidify into a mass of ice. Yes, there is ice and snow, but the air remains breathable. Okay, so if you're wondering, am I reading off something? Yes, I am. It's a text I have done ages ago, to write a book, but I never really got around to it. So, continuing. The air in the troposphere, which we breathe, retains its form and may be called a gas, or more correctly, a gas combination. It does not turn into a solid or a liquid, certainly not of its own accord. Clouds filled with water vapour caused from evaporation. Likewise, snow is a result from snow crystals being formed from water vapour being carried by the wind. The fact is, The formation of snow crystals does not turn all air into a mass of solid ice. So what is the point I'm making here? Well, if we look at the air and the atmosphere of the Earth, we would have to say it suits us rather perfectly. It sustains us and allows us free will. In relation to God, we can ponder if the Earth is, well, if the animate atmosphere is animate, the atmosphere. It could be argued that the atmosphere, more specifically the troposphere, is indeed animate because it contains life such as birds, insects, and anything that flies by nature. But birds and insects are not constantly, individually flying 24 hours a day without rest. We can also take into consideration various indigenous mystical practices, such as where shamans or similar communicate with God via the sky, the atmosphere, through the likes of the wind. Indeed, we see various people of various religions facing the sky while praying. Unfortunately, if you were to ask people how they physically perceive God, some will simply say there would be an old giant. So, well, you really can't perceive God because it has no form. It can change at any time. And God decides what it's going to be. Or else they'll simply say it's Jesus Christ. But I will ask, why does God have to be a human of some sort? Could God not be shown to have a physical presence that we are yet to comprehend? What if we were to say that the presence of God on this earth and in this world was similar to the air we breathe, or else was a gas of some sort? Would this not be a respectable and logical and valid concept? An animated gas, or even an ether? That would be a difficult idea to comprehend. Difficult, but not impossible. When you consider the likes of the reports of ghosts, demons, jinn, poltergeists, and other spiritual entities which cannot be physically described 100% of the time, then describing God in a similar manner does not seem all that far-fetched. After all, a gas or ether cannot be contained by things such as planetary or zodiac hours. If we were to view angels and demons as break-offs or splinters, slivers of God. That would explain a lot. It would explain the absence of genitalia, yeah, physical sex organs, as all physical beings have. Yeah, it would explain how they could be bound by planetary and zodiac hours, that being when they can make a physical appearance and when they can interact with humans or other physical life. But they would not necessarily be bound by the design of human beings. Essentially, they are shapeshifters. So, you know, look, I have been a theistic Satanist previously, and I will test the existence of jinn and demons and so on. They can only be seen in two-dimensional forms at any given time. They're much like a gas. So, but they can interact with humans when their appropriate planetary and zodiac hours are current, and they can take any form to be noticed by one of our senses, such as hearing, touch, smell, taste, and sight. Now, just going up. You could think of them as a type of self-molding clay or Play-Doh, but the shapes they can mold themselves into has been limited by design. But God would have designed their limits, and God is bound by no limits. So, if they were slivers of God, then most likely they were combined with slivers or material, or at least in appearance, and non-organic existence. Much like how gases can be used to combine and dilute each other. In relation to God, are we dealing with a gas or an essence that we are yet to identify or comprehend? Could it be a form of sorts that we have no concept of? Singular air compounds and gases usually cannot be seen in their purest forms, but only might be noticeable if contaminated with each other and pollutants. Let us then go over the 5 physical senses we have. They are vision, smell, touch, taste, and hearing. You could possibly add in a spiritual, psychic gut feeling, intuition as a 6th sense, but the fact is you will only be able to confirm the presence and your suspicion of the likes of air, gas, and indeed are spiritual entities by one of these senses. The only other way would be to use a scientific detector of sorts or testing method. But let us go back to the atmosphere, which composes of three layers, or we'll say four layers: thermosphere, mesosphere, stratosphere, and troposphere. Now, we could compare them to the four worlds of the Kabbalah. If you don't know what the Kabbalah is, it's a mystical occult practice linked to Judaism. They are absolute, emanation; Bria, creation; Yetzirah, formation; and Asiya, the world of action as we encounter it every day, where we are right now. If, just go through this, if we were to use and compare two factors in a demonstration, we would have the following scenario. An object such as a meteor is headed towards Earth. It has seemingly come out of nowhere and is currently in the thermosphere. But we are aware of it only in a vague manner. It exists, and that is all we know. This could be compared to absolute. With the available awareness and knowledge of it, we can only have a concept of its existence. The object descends into the mesosphere. We can form a picture of it in our heads, but each person can only picture it according to their imagination. So therefore, while all these pictures of this object may have some similarities, they will inevitably be different due to various concepts and imagining of the size, the appearance, colour, speed, texture, and so on, because no one has actually seen the object with their naked eye. This could be compared to Bria. With the available knowledge of it so far, we are left to imagination, but we know it exists. The object then descends into the stratosphere. We can get a better idea as to its size, as well as other factors we were somewhat only imagining. We can say whether or not it will impact the Earth, and we can guess within reason where on the Earth it will impact. We can estimate or reasonably guess the speed of the impact, as well as the damage it will cause, whether or not it will affect the weather, whether action can be undertaken to prevent an impact on the Earth, and so on. This could be compared to net zero. We can have a good idea of how this scenario will end up functioning, but not absolutely confirmed. Okay, from there we can say the object enters the troposphere. It will either confirm or deny projected scenarios and mathematical formulas. Impact or non-impact will be confirmed by the naked eye. The sound of the impact will be confirmed by the ear. The shock wave will be felt, and the dust resulting from an impact will affect the air and be both smelled and tasted. This can be compared to ASIA. It is right here, right now. Now, some will say there are scientific instruments, astronomical instruments, various mathematical calculations, theorems, so we've got, various means and so on that would have knowledge of this event. But having knowledge of an upcoming event does not prevent it from happening. Okay, just go. Peter Roberts, hello. Now, it's a bit of a rant, but it's something I wanted to do because I fed up with limp-wristed apologetics, which just say read the Bible, and leave it at that. And you have to go beyond that. You have to have something people can relate to. Anyway, continuing, and I'm almost finished. Some might posit that a missile with a nuclear warhead could have been launched at the object and destroyed it. So we look at it in media. In the thermosphere, or even higher, such as the exosphere. But that would have assumed the following. Number one, the missile was guaranteed to hit. Number two, the warhead was guaranteed to destroy. Number three, any fallout would not land on the Earth. And number four, the object was guaranteed to be physical. That's the problem with assumptions, in that they are always taken for granted. I suppose much like atheists assume there is no God. So, so far, in this clip I've done, I've just dealt with gases. But, you cannot exclude the fact it comes under the subject of chemistry as a whole. Gases are just vaporized chemical forms, much in the same way of water turned into vapor and steam, solid, liquid, vapor. These are the three physical states in which a physical object is perceived to exist, and gases, whether they are pure, diluted, or else classified as pollution, do contain atoms, molecules, isotopes, which contain protons, neutrons, and electrons. Could God be a gas? Could, gas we have yet to comprehend. Possibly could be an ether, an essence, possibly. But, to say there is no God, without completely knowing everything that exists at any given time is, I suppose you say arrogance. Now, just say something I should have explained. The four words of the Kabbalah are absolute, which means emanation, Bria, which means creation, Yetzira, which means formation, and Asya, which means world of action. Don't know if I said that previously, but I just want to clarify that. And, I suppose I'll end it here and upload this, and I know some people may look at it, I don't know. But, like I said, I just wanted to present something different for the proof of God. So, thank you for tolerating me, and and hopefully this will spread out, but, well, that'll be something that'll be decided by YouTube viewers. There's so many, concepts of proof for God. But, you got to do something different. So I'll finish up now and leave it at that.